Good evening and welcome to this virtual forum featuring candidates for Asbury Park City Council, organized by the League of Women Voters of Monmouth County. I am Evelyn C. Murphy, President of the Monmouth County League. My pronouns are she and her. I live in Neptune. The League of Women Voters is a 104-year-old nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization. Being nonpartisan means that we never support or oppose individual candidates or political parties. Membership in the League is open to everyone, age 16 or older, of any gender, who supports our mission to empower voters and defend democracy. Our Monmouth County chapter is the largest in New Jersey, with 386 members. We invite all of you listening to consider joining our team. Turning now to tonight's forum, a recording will be available for viewing on our website, lwvmonmouth.org, and on vote411.org, the League's national nonpartisan voter guide. The candidates have agreed that no other recording of the event for any purpose is permitted. Use of screenshots or portions of the official recording is not allowed. Our trained and experienced moderator for tonight's forum is Cindy Curtis Budka. As required by League rules, the moderator lives outside of the voting area. Here is Cindy to introduce the forum and the candidates.
Thank you, Evelyn. Good evening, and thank you all for your interest in learning about the candidates for the Asbury Park City Council. This evening, we will introduce you to the 6 candidates who are running for the 3 open seats on the council. Welcome, Ms. Amy Quinn, Ms. Yvonne Clayton, Ms. Eileen Chapman, Mr. Garrett Giberson, Mr. John Lafredo, and Ms. Jill Potter. The candidates have agreed to the following format. Each candidate will share a 90-second opening statement. Note that we have a timekeeper on screen, Stacy Goto, who will give candidates a 30-second warning and who will indicate when the candidate's time has finished. Candidates will finish their sentences and then stop when the red sign appears. Questions have been submitted by registrants in advance, and these have been screened for relevance and redundancy. We will cover as many questions as we are able so that we are able to finish at approximately 8:15. I will invite all candidates to respond to each question, speaking for up to 1 minute. Finally, each candidate will offer a 1-minute closing statement. The order in which the candidates will offer their opening and closing statements, as well as the order of response to each question, has been chosen randomly in advance of the forum. Let's begin. Our first opening statement will be given by Mr. Lafredo.
Good evening, and thank you all very much. I'm John Lafredo. I've lived in the city of Asbury Park for 40 years. Before that, I grew up in Neptune, and I attended school here in Asbury Park. My dad worked on Springwood Avenue, so I've always been very familiar with the city and its ups and downs. Rich and I bought our house 40 years ago, like I said, and we became a part of the community. While we were here, we noticed that there were some things that were lacking for the residents of the city. I started the Homeowners Association quite a number of years ago, which I was the founding president of. During that time, we had people from all over the city, because at that time the homeowner was, quite frankly, the minority. But we had people from all over the city who joined it. And we became a very tight-knit community. And we got involved in the city by doing, we had scholarship programs, tree planting programs, cleanup programs, and we started to get everybody very involved. It was a very homogeneous, and it was a great time in our city. But as things went on, we noticed that there was a lot more that needed to be done. And I first ran for council, I believe it was 1996. I didn't get in at that time, but I did get in 2000 with my running mates, and with them, we made a lot of changes in the city for the better. And I'm hoping to get in again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I am Garrett Giberson. I have lived in the city of Asbury Park all my life. I have volunteered in many ways to make our city a better Asbury Park. I have served on several boards and commissions, the Board of Education, the Planning Board, the Sunset Lake Commission, and currently I'm serving on the Asbury Park Housing Authority. I retired in June of 2020 as the fire marshal from the city's fire department. I am running for city council because I believe we can do better. I'm a firm believer in term limits, and I feel that 8 years on city council is enough. It's time for fresh faces and new ideas in Asbury Park. It's time to freshen things up in our city. And that's what AP Act Now is, a fresh, new face and new ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Eileen Chapman, a dedicated leader who has served on the City Council for 8 years, since 2016, though my commitment to this community extends far beyond my official duties. I'm a 50-year resident of the city, raised my family here, and have seen the results of electing people to public office who have made poor decisions. I'm passionate about ensuring that Asbury Park continue to experience forward momentum. I've initiated a semi-monthly coffee with a council person to address concerns of residents quickly and effectively. I actively participate in various community organizations, co-coordinate Music Mondays in Springwood Park, and serve on several boards that enhance the lives of Asbury Park residents. I'm also a member of the Asbury Park Recreation Committee, ensuring that hundreds of our city's children have access to one of the best recreation programs of Monmouth County, providing sports, activities, day trips, beach access, swimming lessons, and more. Sunset Lake Commission, where I initiated a master plan with the input of the public for Sunset Park. Quality of Life Committee, where concerns from our citizens are quickly addressed. Wesley Lake Commission, where stormwater and flood mitigation are top priorities. And the Asbury Park Green Team, defining solutions to environmental concerns, street and pedestrian safety, and stormwater management. I'm here to address your concerns and hopefully end the evening with your support.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Clayton. I was raised in Asbury Park. I am a graduate of Asbury Park High School. After college, I moved away from Asbury Park. However, because my roots are here, my parents are here, I spent my time, my summers, my weekends, my holidays here in the city. And then in 2011, I moved back. And when I moved back, I was really disappointed by the city that I saw. When I grew up here, this was a vibrant, exciting, wonderful place to live. And I had the opportunity when I returned to work with a group of people. I joined the Homeowners Association. And from that, I had met with and was invited to join the Asbury Together team. And I found that they were progressive, they were interested in making the city a better place, and that they were willing to work really hard to accomplish that. I work for positive changes in my community because this is a great place to be, and I want it to be the best it can be for all people. I thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Potter.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jill Potter, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this debate and helping the democratic process. Thank you to the supporters of AP Act Now and to those who have set aside time in their busy lives to watch this debate. I'm running for City Council because I'm passionate about creating a more inclusive, accountable, and transparent Asbury Park. My experience entails over 30 years in New Jersey's court system, 25 years as a resident of our city, and I'm currently on the Zoning Board and Parking Committee. I was also chairperson for Road Trip Weekend and one of the co-founders of Q-Spot. And now, in my spare time, I run a small business. Through all of this, I've learned firsthand the importance of listening to residents and acting on their concerns. Our team, AP Act Now, is committed to addressing core community issues. We plan to improve quality of life by ensuring proper code enforcement and traffic safety with a comprehensive transportation plan. We're deeply committed to keeping property taxes manageable and advocating for rent control to protect our residents. John, Garrett, and I have heard time and again from frustrated residents the importance of fostering open, consistent communication from the city. And our plan is to do just that. It's time for fresh ideas and genuine accountability. I'm here as a voice for you, to work alongside of you, and to make Asbury Park the best it can be for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Quinn.
Also want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, all the people who are tuning in, and I want to thank all the candidates for taking the time and running in this race. We may have different ways of getting to the end result, but I think all 6 of us care about Asbury Park greatly. I am running on the Asbury Together ticket with Yvonne Clayton and Eileen Chapman. A little bit about me. I've been on the council for about 10 years. I've been the deputy mayor for about 8 of the 10 years. My day job is I am an attorney for a nonprofit legal service agency, which means we represent people who can't afford an attorney in a wide range of issues, including housing. My claim to fame is that I was one of the first people married on the boardwalk when marriage equality took place at 1201, and I have a 9-year-old son in the Asbury Park School District in the 4th grade.
Thank you. So let's begin with questions. Our first question, many Asbury Park residents have seen a dramatic increase in property taxes in recent years. How can the council control or even reduce the tax burden? And we will begin with Ms. Potter.
Hi, thank you very much. One of the things that needs to be done is there needs to be a bond and communication between the Board of Ed and the City Council. Currently, they do not speak, they do not engage with each other. And we feel that by creating communication between the 2 organizations, we can look for redundancies, cut costs, and help the overall tax burden of the citizens of Asbury Park. Besides that, we can look at the pilots that are going on in Asbury Park. In the recent years, a number of them have been given out for 30 years or longer. And we want to make sure that pilots are not given out so freely. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Yes, so as my running mate said, it's important for us to sit down and form a partnership with the Board of Education. As we know, it is mostly because of the school district that we have such a tax burden. And by sitting down with them and trying to figure out ways to cut some of those expenses will help to reduce our taxes. We can also sit down to go over the city's budget and trim as much of the fat as possible out of it to see what spending can be cut and where it can be cut. Those are some of the important things we can do to cut taxes. We can also look at shared services with other communities or with other agencies within the city to cut spending and to reduce those taxes.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
We have been very, very active in controlling the taxes in the city. Our tax base, we have been fortunate in that our property values have increased, but at the same time, the city has maintained its tax rate at the same rate going forward. Where we have a problem is with the school district. The school district is that issue that has been raising our taxes year after year. We proposed many projects with the school district that have not come to fruition. We believe that going forward, there are other projects and ideas that we can propose to them by working with them, that we can make some changes. Also, we need to work with our elected officials, both locally and at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman?
Hi, so all of these are great ideas, and we are having conversations with the Board of Ed about the possibility of shared services, including grant writers, maintenance people, and others. Those conversations are happening. The city's tax rate has actually decreased 56% due to ratables and increase in property value, so the tax rate has gone down. In addition, yes, there are 30-year pilots. In 2014, I think there were 14 pilots that were already given out. I believe that we've given out an additional 4 or 5, all having to do with low-income housing on the west side. And if you also look at your county tax rate, the county tax rate has also increased. So not only has the school board tax rate increased, but so has Monmouth County. And our budget remains flat every year. So we're doing whatever we can to scrub our budget, keep the tax rate down for our residents.
Thank you. Mr. LaFredo.
Well, I'm of course agreeing with my running mates. They bring up some very good points. One of the other things we need to do is see where we're actually spending our money as far as the vendors that we've hired, their hours, their billable hours, work change orders. I mean, this is the sort of thing that increases a budget and increases expenditures. We have to take a very hard look at who we're paying and what we're paying them.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn.
So the municipal tax rate, which is the only part of it that the city has control over, has remained flat for the last 5 to 6 years. In some years, it's actually decreased, while assessments have increased in the city. The city has also had the highest rating at AA3, highest rating at least that since Moody's been keeping track of the ratings in the city. We have our Asbury Together has had the highest rating. The highest part of your tax rate is the school board, and not to throw them under the bus, but it's also the state cutting their funding by about $40 million. That, if you look at your tax bill, is going to be where you're finding the biggest increases in your tax bill. And to Eileen's point, we've been talking with the new superintendent about shared services, a conversation we've tried to have in previous years. And most recently, we have had about sharing services for grant writing and maintenance.
Thank you. Next question. Traffic is an ongoing resident concern. What would you do to address the challenge of speeding and pedestrian safety? Mr. LaFredo.
One of the things we need to do is put proper speed bumps up. I mean, they should be not just on 3rd, 4th Avenue. We need to have them up throughout the city. I believe in traffic circles, small ones in certain crossways, and also we need the better marked crosswalks. Our sidewalks, we need the bump outs. We have to make it a pedestrian-friendly city. Also, our police need to be vigilant. I really believe on some of our streets, a policeman should be there to clock what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
So I agree that we do need traffic calming measures for our city, including better crosswalks. We have some upcoming projects, and every project moving forward will have traffic calming measures, including raised intersections, bump outs. Bump outs that also include stormwater management, infrastructure improvements, and other areas where we can calm traffic and make it safer for pedestrians, including traffic lights you're now seeing going up on Memorial Drive. They'll also go up in other places. We're looking at projects right now that are in the works for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Avenue, which includes safe routes to school. And on November 30th, there will be a public input session, so all residents can come and provide input to these traffic calming measures and everything else we have planned for our streets moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Potter.
Thank you. I have to agree with what everybody's saying, but it has to happen. We have to have the bump outs. We have to have protected bike lanes. We have to have enforcement. There has to be the comprehensive plan for transportation and pedestrian safety throughout the city. It can't happen in half-mile stretches on a whim to give a bike lane on Sunset Avenue, but not throughout the whole city. So I'm thinking, and we're thinking on our ticket, that to take a look at the whole city, make a plan, make it safe, I should be able to walk, anybody should be able to walk east to west, north to south, not at risk of being hit by a car, which almost happened today, by the way. So it needs to just happen, not talked about.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn.
So when we were elected to office, there wasn't a bike lane to be found in Asbury Park. And one of the ways you do traffic calming, as Complete Streets has told me, is you visually make our roads, which in Asbury Park are really, really wide, you make them smaller. So we've added over 25 miles of bike lanes in Asbury Park. We've added protected bike lanes in Asbury Park. We've added speed bumps, not just on 3rd and 4th, but also on Ridge and putting them around the city. We have plans for raised intersections in certain intersections in the city. And it's also about micro mobility, making sure people can walk. We have a scooter program that is, probably one of our most used programs in the city, so people can ride around and get from one place to the other without being in their car. We've previously done bike rental programs where people could rent a bike and walk around the city. We continue to get grants and federal funding to paint and stripe. We've done a few hundred crosswalks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Clayton.
I agree. We need to make the city as safe as we can. And we have been doing it. We've been working with the city. We've been putting in the bike lanes. But you also have to consider that it is not just the city. We have to work with the Department of Transportation. We have to work with county roads, state roads. All of those have to be negotiated. We have to work with each of those individuals to do it. So yes, a holistic, let's do one plan would be a great idea. Realistically, it doesn't work that way. Plus, we have to get the grants and the money to make it happen. And we have been doing it, working at it. And a traffic light, $400,000. The little lanes on Sunset Avenue, $75,000. You want to keep the budget flat? We need to get the grants, we need to get the work, and we've been doing it, and we will continue to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson?
Well, I happen to live on one of the streets that is constantly has speeders up and down it day and night. I could sit out, you could put a police officer with radar out here 24/7, and they would pull people over left and right. Haven't seen a police officer running radar in several months. Speed humps. They put speed humps down on several of our streets. However, they didn't put them down properly. Some of the speed hump is missing on each end. So there's only a middle section. Now what they're doing is speeding around them. As far as the bike lanes, yes, they're supposed to make our streets smaller and more comfortable for bicyclists and for pedestrians to be able to use safely. However, it's not working. Something has to be done. And whether that's more bump outs, whether it's calming circles, whether it's more radar on our streets, something needs to be done. And we have to do it because nothing is getting done now. Again, I live on one of the streets where it's day and night.
Thank you. What is your plan to help the ever-growing parking problems in the city? Mr. Giberson?
Well, hopefully there's money there to build a garage. We need a couple of garages throughout town for parking. It's been a problem that has plagued the city for, probably at least the last 20 years, especially with the resurgence of the downtown and the restaurants and bars and different businesses that we have. There just isn't any parking. And hopefully with the money we're collecting for parking fees and in that utility, we'll be able to build a parking garage. And a parking garage should have been built 5 or 6 years ago already.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo?
Yes, we do need a parking garage. It's something that we've needed for a long time. But the city has to have the wherewithal and the guts to eminent domain where necessary. People think eminent domain is a dirty word. No, it's not. When it's for the greater good, when it's for the greater good of the public, eminent domain needs to be used. We There were places designated for a parking garage. I mean, we built a firehouse on it. Well, there are other properties where I think a parking garage could go and should go. It's something that needs to be done. Do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn.
So the city has two parking garages in the works. One is in the waterfront and one is in downtown. We've already RFP'd it. We're going through the RFPs to determine which of them is going to be the most advantageous to the city. Look, at the end of the day, parking garages aren't going to make us a ton of money. They're going to cost taxpayers money. So when we're talking about build parking garages, I just want people to know that that's going to have a cost to it. It's probably a money loss, which is why we're trying to partner with outside agencies to build the parking garage.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
I have to agree with Amy. We already have plans for the parking garage. We've already put it out the RFP. We've already had the response. The parking garages are planned, one in the waterfront and one in Midtown and downtown. We know that there's a parking issue, and we continue to address the parking issue. That's why we continue to make all new developers and new developments have adequate parking for their residents. Parking is something that, as long as we have a city and people use cars, it's going to be an issue, but we continue to address it.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
I have to agree with Yvonne and Amy. We are already planning 2 parking garages. I also just need to point out that the firehouse that is being built on something that could have been a parking lot was out of necessity. So that firehouse was condemned 2 times. And in 2006, actually the 3rd floor had collapsed. And so there was a dire need for a new firehouse. And that's why the firehouse is being built on the lot that it's on. I also have to point out that there was a deal made in 2002 where all of the surface lots that you now see up the oceanfront will go away and will be developed, which is why we really do need that parking garage in the oceanfront and the other parking garage downtown around City Hall, so that the downtown businesses can benefit and the people going to the beach can benefit, and it works for the entire city.
Thank you. Ms. Potter.
Thank you. One of the ideas could be, not sure if the current council is doing this, but you need to have a partnership, or you could have a partnership between the public and a private entity where you create mixed uses. So not only a parking garage, but you could have a residential nature to it. It could have commercial storefronts, even anchor corner stores on the corner of the parking garage. You make it a mixed use, you make it a destination. That way it's not such a harsh structure just as a parking garage. So that would be one of APAC Now's ideas, is to have a mixed use partnered parking garage.
Thank you. We'll turn to safety. Community safety is a concern for many residents. How do you balance effective policing with the need for community trust? Ms. Chapman.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. What we've done recently is we are ensuring that we have more police out on foot patrol in the community that are interacting with residents and our police department. We also have officers on foot on the boardwalk and downtown. Our police are also actively involved with Police Athletic League, interacting with students, children, young adults. And we are hiring additional officers that are on foot and bicycle patrol and just getting out into the community and interacting with people.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
In addition to what Eileen has already mentioned, we have been sitting down with members of the community to create what is a version of a civilian review board, a place where residents can come and voice concerns and have them addressed. It is a combination of residents, of the police, and we have been looking at different communities to see how they manage it, what restrictions we have because of restrictions from the state, but we are very concerned about what's going on in our community and how people can come together and feel safe and know that they have a responsive police force. And I'm going to also emphasize what our police have been doing with their youth. There is the PAL program, there's the boxing program, there is a girls softball team. There are just so many wonderful things that the police are doing to become involved with the community and to make sure that it is.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Giberson.
Well, when I was growing up in Asbury Park and a bunch of us in the neighborhood would be playing ball in the street, the police would stop and talk to us and throw the ball around. You don't see that much anymore. You don't really see it much anywhere, let alone here in Asbury Park. I think police need to be more visible throughout the neighborhoods, especially the areas that have problems. I think they need to better utilize their bicycle and walking patrols. Police should be engaging our residents and establishing good working relationships with them. And you do that by being visible and by being out in the neighborhoods and by stopping and talking to people when they see them out and about, by stopping and throwing the ball around with the kids that are playing in the neighborhoods, by listening to what our residents are saying. We have a great police department. We just need to be utilized a bit better.
Thank you. Ms. Potter.
Thank you. I have to agree with a couple of comments here. The Civilian Review Board or something thereof is needed in cities like ours because of the diversity, because of the times that we live in. Also, the historic nature of community policing is the officers are out and about in the community regularly, the same officers, the same neighborhood, so that they get to know the residents and the residents get to know them. They see each other in different lights. That way you know that Officer Bob is coming around. That's how you create the reliance on police, the trust in police, and you're creating a bond between the two, the residents and the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn?
In 2013, when I ran for office and we did a ton of door-to-door, the #1 issue in 2013 was crime. And over the last 10 years, we've had a 50% reduction of crime. And that's through many of the things that everybody's talked about, which is community policing, getting cops out of cars, a well-run PAL program, and also adding social workers to our police force to deal with people in crisis who shouldn't be arrested, and that we have mental health professionals going out with our officers and helping with community members that need that. One things I'll take exception to is saying that our police officers are not out and about. What I saw every Monday at the Monday night concerts this summer was police officers dancing with kids at the Springwood Ave Park. I see them out National Night Out. I see them out at, the 1,700 community events that we do, talking to our residents and interacting with the kids of Asbury Park. Just this weekend for Fall Fun Day, officers were giving kids tours of the police cars.
Thank you. And Mr. Lafredo.
Yes, thank you. All very good. We should bring back our Public Safety Committee, which was made up of policemen, residents, and council people. I was a council person that served on it. I believe Rita Morano was there with me for a number of years. We do need to have our cops walking a beat. We do need to have our cops interacting with the people. I live by Main Street. I have not seen police walking up and down Main Street like I used to. I have seen them on the boardwalk in groups of 5. Well, that's not exactly what community policing is. I think we have a great police force. I mean, I know some of them personally. I do believe we need to beef our police force up, bring it to capacity, give them the people that they need. And I would encourage them to do community policing and get into the neighborhoods and walk around. Walked around on the West Side just the other day. One lady told me they hadn't seen the policeman in months. Thank you.
Thank you. We will turn to affordability. How will you work to increase housing affordability for long-term residents while continuing the city on its path to economic revitalization. Ms. Clayton.
Affordability is the issue that is so dear to my heart. I want this city to be a place where all can afford to live here. And we have done so much to make that possible. We've passed ordinances that all new development requires 20% set aside for affordable units. We have passed an ordinance creating ADUs, accessory dwelling units, so that if you have the space in your place, in your home, you can build a second unit that will allow for another income, for in-laws, whatever. We also have made sure that we have saved the neighborhoods by creating Airbnb restrictions. We want to make sure that Asbury Park is a place where Asbury Park residents can live.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn?
Housing and affordability is a passion of mine as well. And I'm going to agree with, everything Yvonne has said. We really were at the forefront to start curbing Airbnbs or short-term rentals, so much so that municipalities around us continue to ask for our ordinance to copy. And what we did was we limited them to primary residents. We also have a rent control ordinance with a 3.5 cap on it, meaning units that qualify for rent control, their rent can only go up 3.5. So you can calculate for that. And then we have a hardship appeal for landlords, 20% inclusionary zoning for any development outside of the waterfront. The waterfront doesn't allow us to do that due to a 2002 agreement. And I just want to remind everybody of all the units on Springwood Ave that are affordable, the Renaissance and Boston Way, well over 100 affordable units that were put in on Springwood Ave in the last few years.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
Yeah, I agree with ancillary uses for private property, putting a unit on the property. Springwood Avenue, yes, that was agreed to a number of years ago by a previous council, and we're glad to see it getting developed. Look, the housing problem is not just Asbury Park's problem. This is all over our country, and this is especially true in New Jersey. I mean, you talk about people fleeing to greener pastures. One of our biggest exports is residents. I do believe in rent control. I believe that there is something that has to be done when new housing is built. But how do you make it that when single family homes are built, how do you tell a builder, we are going to restrict what you sell that house for? It's a hard nut, folks, but we're willing to tackle it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, I definitely believe in the rent control and the 3.5%, and we need to maintain that. We also need to, I believe, to develop a partnership with our housing authority when it comes to affordable housing and look at the properties that we have, whether it be the city and the housing authority, and developing that partnership to develop affordable houses. We have, excuse me, empty lots that I have seen throughout the city, abandoned houses that have not been cared for and left. We should take those pieces of property and parcels and develop affordable housing on them. There are ways that we can do that. And I truly believe that we need more of it.
Thank you. Ms. Potter?
Hi, thank you. Well, I'm not sure there's much left to say. Everybody pretty much covered it. It's a vital issue across New Jersey, across the United States. ADUs are a wonderful thing if you can afford them. It costs money to build it. I love the idea of it, but not everybody can do it. That's the unfortunate thing. Tax stabilization, that has got to be the number one thing in order to keep your long-term residents. As somebody who's on a fixed income now that I'm retired, it's hard to keep up with the cost of taxes. And I get that the municipal tax rate might be flat, but the Board of Ed or the school taxes are driving long-term residents out. There has to be something done to stabilize taxes. The housing authority and partnering with them to make affordable housing is a great start. Thank you.
Thank you. What additional actions do you believe are necessary to ensure that current residents, especially those facing financial challenges, feel the benefits of new development in the community? Ms. Quinn.
So I did not have the opportunity to answer that last question.
I apologize. I checked you off and didn't, sorry about that. Ms.
That's
Chapman.
okay. Not that I have much to answer, but yes, this affordable housing is a problem that's, throughout the state, throughout the country. Our concern is our residents of Asbury Park to make sure that we address middle income and low income residents, our teachers, our service industry people, our artists, to make sure that anyone who feels the pinch of the rising economy has a place to stay, has a place here in Asbury Park. And it's with rent control. It's with the short-term rental ordinance, the 20% affordable, and the ADUs as well. And there are incentives for anyone who builds an ADU and that will deem it affordable. There are incentives that the city will work with them through that process and through that cost.
Thank you, and my apologies again. So, Ms. Quinn, do you need me to repeat the next question?
I totally need you to repeat that
Okay.
question.
So the question is, what additional actions do you believe are necessary to ensure that current residents, especially those facing financial challenges, feel the benefits of new development in the community?
So I think one of the great things about Asbury Park are the things that people talk about is the arts and culture and the diversity. And without diversity of housing, we're not going to keep those things in Asbury Park. So I'm not going to reiterate all the things that were already mentioned, like rent control, a 20% set aside, ADUs. One of the other housing that we need to tackle in this next term is live work art space for our artists, space for our artists to live in and be able to pay, our wait staff, our police officers, our teachers. These are all people not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and these are all people who want to remain, and we want them to remain in Asbury Park.
Thank you. Ms. Potter.
Thank you. Setting aside perhaps a building from the housing authority on the land that they have for just what Ms. Quinn said, the staff that need it, the artists, the new teachers coming on board, the people who have fixed incomes. That makes for allotted areas affordable for people who are struggling either later in life or who are just starting out. There could be incentives or inventive ways to create housing in Asbury Park with the properties that we still own. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman?
Yeah, I agree with my teammate, Amy Quinn, that we are looking at alternate ways to make sure that we keep our creative people here, our people that have lived here forever, and all of those, as I said before, middle and low income people. We are talking to developers about creating a space that is over 50%, I believe 60% artist live work and low income. And these are conversations we have with developers every day. We started the 20% set aside for affordable housing before the state did. We were in front of that curve. So these are conversations we have every day.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
Yes, good ideas. One of the things I'd like us to do again is partner with Interfaith Neighbors. They had a wonderful program where they would take a family who wanted a home, not only help them get the home, build the home out, but show them how to take care of a budget. What did you need to repair? What you needed to put away? What you needed to earn in order to maintain that home? It's a great program. We made sure they got properties and houses. Some people did not like it that we did that. Now, I go around this city from north, south, east, west. There are homes and there are properties that we could designate to use to build this type of housing. It's a wonderful program and they're a wonderful organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, I have to agree with most of what everybody has said here tonight. And yeah, it is essential to keep our workers and our staff members that work throughout the different businesses within the city. I hear it all the time when I'm out and about. People don't want to have to go live out in Jackson, or they don't want to have to go live down in Lakewood or Bricktown. They want to be able to stay in Asbury Park. And one of the ways to do that is, again, to acquire properties that we can develop and partnership with developers, we partnership with the interfaith neighbors, partnership with our housing authority. We need to keep these people here. They're the backbone of the city because they are not only working here, but they also spend their money here. So they're important to us as well.
And Ms. Clayton.
There's nothing to disagree about. We all want to keep our artists, our teachers, our policemen in the city. There are so many methods that we can use, and we have been working to do that. We have a building coming that's going to have both affordable and workforce housing. It will also have artists live workspace. These are the things that we've been doing. It's not new. And who doesn't want our community to remain as diverse and as creative as it is today?
Thank you. Asbury Park has had many businesses start, succeed, and in some instances fail. What specific policies or initiatives do you plan to introduce or support to help local small businesses thrive and compete? Ms. Chapman.
So I think there are many ways that we can help our small businesses and many ways that they are. So there is a business committee that Deputy Mayor Quinn sits on. We have now started the UEZ program as well. And our UEZ director is very familiar with our city and is looking to help businesses thrive and remain in our city. Our Chamber of Commerce is also very active in helping with that as well. We are talking about the possibility of a special improvement district. Those are conversations that are happening. We are again looking at a parking garage for downtown. Our businesses are important to us. Our downtown is vital to us and vital to the health of this city. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not downtown talking to business owners and on the boardwalk talking to business owners to have individual conversations about what they need and how we can help them. We do our coffee with the council person at each of these businesses. I have to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
Yes, thank you. You know, years ago, when there were tumbleweeds going down Cookman Avenue, some brave people did start businesses. And unfortunately, they were victims of the fact that we hadn't gotten where we were going to get to. What do you do for somebody like that you want to keep? What do you do for somebody like that you want to stay? Do you give tax breaks? Do you help them with their mortgage? You know, thank God for those people because they were the impetus for the next group that came in and made the effort to stay. Look, I'm all for small business. I do talk to the small business owners downtown. Some of them are not too happy. What would I do? Look, I'm open to ideas. I don't have all the answers, but there has to be an incentive to help these people stay in their businesses.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn.
So the city, I think it was already mentioned before, has a UEZ program where we spent months going down to Trenton to get over $1 million to help support our businesses. The business committee meets quarterly to go through business concerns, and our most used program is something called the lease subsidy program, and this is where we help small businesses support the staff during the off season because there's not anyone on this Zoom who doesn't know that January, February, and March is very, very difficult for businesses in Asbury Park. So what we've done is create events that bring people to Asbury Park that maybe wouldn't normally come here during those times of year. Last year, we had a very successful event called Made in Asbury Park at the Berkeley that brought hundreds of people here, and they got to interact with businesses, talk to businesses about not only like the wares you sell, but the things that are made in Asbury Park, which are obviously a lot more than people realize. So continuing those programs, continuing getting feedback, and figuring out how to fund and help small businesses. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, we need to develop that partnership with our businesses. We need to be more business friendly to our business owners, our small businesses. We need to support them. The UEZ is one of the ways. Our county officials, our state officials, to work with them to try to bring revenue into our city for these businesses. That's exactly one of the reasons why I started the Asbury Park St. Patrick's Day Parade, because it brought commerce to our city. It brought people to come into our city and to spend money, not only in the downtown, but in the beachfront area as well. So by having these different events and promoting our small businesses, that's what we need to do as a city council.
Thank you. And Ms. Clayton.
Again, our UEZ plant program is working. It's giving store owners the opportunity to upgrade their businesses with money from the UEZ. It's giving them an opportunity to retain staff in the off season. It will also, we've had one business where we were able to support and provide benefits for those employees when they were not working. The other thing we're doing is creating events that are going to bring people into the city in the season. We're going to go do ice skating in like Press Plaza to bring people into the city. So this is not new. We are working very, very hard to make sure that our businesses can survive both in season and out of season.
Thank you. The city's historic boardwalk structures are crumbling and increasingly unable to be used and accessed. What are your thoughts on how to address this problem? Ms. Quinn.
So that problem dates back to a 2002 agreement that was made during a previous council. We are the only council who has happened to hold Madison Marquette in default and gotten them to move on minor changes in the waterfront. But look, the fact is this agreement from 2002, and I'm sure John Lafredo can talk about it a little bit more than me, does not cause for any real consequence to the, what I'm going to call disrepair of these buildings that are falling into the water. We hold them in default for the things that we can hold them in default for in the waterfront, and we move forward on that. But basically, there's not a whole lot we can do to stop the demise of these buildings due to this 2002 agreement.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton?
It's a problem. It's one that we have little control over because there's an agreement that doesn't have any deadlines and it doesn't have any consequences. We continue to work. So we have been able to get a grant from the state that's giving us $20 million. That $20 million, of that $20 million, $13 million will be given and used by Madison Marquette. We are demanding that that money be used to upgrade and support and reopen the Paramount Theater. We believe that that will be the start. And we will continue to work with the state and the developer to see what other changes we can make, but we're making a trend.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, no matter who the developer is, any developer that makes an agreement with the city and is found in default should be held accountable. And if that means dragging them through the mud and taking them through the courts to get them to do what they need to and to force their hand to what they need to do, then that's what the city needs to do. It breaks my heart to see these buildings crumble, because I remember being in them as a kid growing up here, again, for concerts, for Christmas shows, for Easter shows, for you name it. They had it in those buildings. And for this to be allowed, it's criminal. And again, if they're in default, they should be held accountable. End of story.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
This problem goes back farther than that. In 2000, the boardwalk had orange cones on it where people couldn't walk for safety's sake. All those buildings were in need of repair. The city had absolutely no money to take care of these buildings, let alone rehab them. Never mind shoring up that boardwalk. We made the agreement we made at the time that was necessary for us to make. We can hold them accountable. There is a timeline. There was a timeline in that if they found a viable developer to come in and develop those buildings, they had to deal with them. They're not doing it. They had people that came in and wanted to redevelop those buildings, and they're not dealing with them. We took iStar to court. We had to go to arbitration with them because we had the same problem with them not performing. Don't say it can't be done. It can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman?
So I just have to say, yes, the boardwalk was in bad shape, but desperation is no excuse for poor planning. And there was poor planning when it came to this agreement in 2002, where there were no schedules and no benchmarks and no recourse for development that didn't get accomplished. What we're dealing with now is fixing the mistakes of our forefathers. So what we are doing now is meeting with these developers in order to keep them on track and getting these buildings open and getting these buildings renovated and making sure that our public and our residents have access to these buildings. These are buildings that hold Easter parades and school events and just so many things. So we are ensuring that this is going to happen by getting a $13 million grant that we will hold the funding for Madison Marquette to open, first of all, the Paramount Theater and then the Convention Hall complex. This is something we work on constantly, and we are meeting with them constantly to get this done on behalf of our residents.
Thank you. Ms. Potter?
Thank you. I didn't get a chance to answer the question about the business district, so I'm just going to boomerang back to there for a second.
I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I was being polite and waiting for everybody to answer.
I'll give extra time for the pair here.
No worries, no worries. You know, closing down some streets, having fairs, having festivals, getting the downtown to be a pedestrian-friendly zone, encouraging people to stroll and shop and visit where it's open and free and flowing. I don't know, a novel idea might be to have some festivals and concerts. Maybe See Here Now has a downtown stage. There's several ways where we can have the downtown become viable and enjoy the off season as well as the in season with just some creative thinking. Back to the boardwalk, back to the crumbling buildings. You know, everybody hit the nail on the head. We have to hold people accountable. We have to bring people to court if that's what needs to be done. We have to partner with the right people to make sure that we hit benchmarks. If we have to go get state funding, federal funding, grants, then we go and do that. Every set of the next elected officials are always going to inherit something. So you just have to work with it. Thank you.
Thank you. What should the city be doing to adapt to and prepare for climate change? Ms. Potter?
You just like hearing me talk, I think. So, you know, climate resiliency. We need stormwater management in this town. We need it desperately. The city is flooding with just a really good thunderstorm. So we need to have a way to capture street runoff and not just into our lakes. We need to plan for the ocean and lakes to overflow, come another Sandy, which, you know, was just 12 years ago today. So we need to be forward thinking with climate resiliency. And as a shore community, and Asbury Park particularly, we're basically a peninsula. We're surrounded by lakes and oceans. We need to think like that. We need to think that we're a water-based community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn?
Similar to what Ms. Potter said, stormwater management, bump outs, rain gardens, green infrastructure, all things that we are starting to incorporate and following up on places that we've already incorporated it to help with the flooding. Asbury is unique in that it has 3 lakes, so that causes a little bit of extra flooding, but we're continuing to work through green infrastructure, storm management, and rain garden bump outs.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
Well, absolutely. I mean, green is the way to go, but one of the things that I don't understand why we don't do it, especially in our new buildings, and especially on our pavilions, talking about the pavilions, is we should have solar panels. It should be required that all new building has solar panels on it. I believe in it. I think it's the way of the future. They become more efficient as time goes by. One of the things about stormwater runoff, a previous council, the one I served on, did millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure improvement to the city. Springwood Avenue, Summerfield Avenue, where basements used to flood. We did the sewer lines, we did the pipelines, we did the gas lines, we did the electrical. This was all done. A city without infrastructure is a collapsing city. We concentrated on that, we got it done. It was to the benefit of the city, and it was to the benefit of everybody in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
Yeah, so I just have to say that every road project that is done in the city has all infrastructure repairs built into that component. I sit on 2 lake commissions, Wesley Lake and Sunset Lake. Each of those lakes, we've instituted water testing. We've upgraded the flume on Deal Lake to make sure that Deal Lake doesn't flood, which helps Sunset Lake because Sunset Lake drains into Deal. Wesley Lake had a huge flood last year. We're working with the EPA, with our city engineer, and with a state assembly person to ensure that we can address stormwater mitigation. The outflow pipe needs some renovations to it, and we're looking at, we had a study done by where we're identifying all of the areas that drain into Wesley Lake and how we can mitigate that, and then make sure that we get the water out of Wesley Lake and into the ocean quickly enough so it doesn't flood. These meetings are ongoing at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
We are looking at infrastructure. We're looking at the 100-year plan, flood plan. I sit on the planning board. We make sure that everybody that comes before the planning board is doing what's necessary to protect our environment. We are upgrading. We work with the DEP. We work with CAFRA. We are not sleeping on climate problems. We know that they exist, and we know that they're only going to get worse as we go into the future.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
But we definitely need to look at our storm water runoff management system. We need to look at the lakes that it's going into, the outfall pipes, as it has been said already. You know, some of these lakes could use dredging because it's just years and years and years of silt sitting in them. And of course, that costs dollars. Of course, it, you know, by taking the spoils out, where are you going to put them, and how you're going to deal with that. So if you have to go and bang on Washington, D.C.'s door and beg for this funding and get them in the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and to do these projects and to expedite these projects, and if you have to go to Washington once a month to do that, then that's what you have to do. You have the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but something has to be done. And it's not just in Asbury Park it's happening all over the world, all over this country. So it is important that we manage these storms and these lakes. And again, if we have to go and beg the feds for the money, then that's what we have to do.
Thank you. And we are running out of time, and there are lots of questions people would still like to have heard about, but this will have to be the last one. And what efforts would you make to gather community input and improve transparency and communication with residents? Sorry, Mr. Lafredo.
Well, look, we offer, you know, we have a number of committees that people can sit on. I would like to see, you know, the Public Safety Committee brought back. It was a good committee, and there was always an exchange of ideas. One of the things that we used to do, and we used to have community meetings. We would have them at the Paramount Theater. We would have them in a big open space for people to come and to talk about things that were going on and what we needed to do. We always wanted to hear from the public. Look, engaging the public is paramount. It's something we plan on doing, something that needs to be ongoing, not just every 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, with today's technology and all the social media we have, there's no reason not to be able to communicate and get the message out to people. Again, having town halls throughout the city and different parts of the city, being for our people to be able to come to different areas that they can't get to, listening, doing a walking of our neighborhoods and talking to residents. Again, social media is so big these days, there's absolutely no reason we can't get the message out to people and be able to talk to people and communicate better with people.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton?
I agree. Community engagement is so very important. And that's one of the reasons why we do a coffee with the council person. And we do it throughout the city. We don't stay in one location. We move constantly because we find that different locations, different individuals, different issues. And we're going to continue to do that. And I agree. I think we should do larger community meetings, maybe 4 times a year. And it's something I would definitely advocate for.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn?
So I think we all believe in transparency. Since Asbury Together has been on the council, we've nearly doubled the number of boards and committees that people can participate in. We added electric signs. We added Dixel alerts, both community related and emergency alerts. Coffee with a council person every other month. And weekly email blasts, new wayfinding signage. If people want us to do town hall meetings quarterly or something like that, in addition to the council meetings that we have twice a month, that's something that I think we would all enjoy and a benefit for everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Potter?
Thank you. Asbury Park has a lot of resident experts, people who are very well schooled and knowledgeable about topics such as mobility, green space, water management. I would like to engage our resident experts, have them available for special projects, talk to them, lean on them, get their input. It's what they do for a living. Let's hear from you. I like Garrett's idea. Let's get out to the community. Let's walk around. Let's talk to the neighborhoods. There's room for a lot of different things. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Chapman?
Yeah, so I agree with everything everybody has to say. So we do send out a newsletter. We do have weekly email blasts. We do have Nixle. We have our electronic signs. We show up at the homeowners association meeting to talk about what the council's doing. And we get out at every event. I mean, we walk the streets, we talk to people, we make ourselves available, we give our phone numbers out, we interact. There's not a day that goes by that we don't interact with residents of this city. We are transparent, we are available, we listen, we act, and that's what we're all about. And that's how we get things done. We're a community.
Thank you. And we will turn now to closing statements, and we will begin with Ms. Potter.
Thank you. I think it's quite evident from the conversations that happened today that you have 6 people before you that absolutely adore Asbury Park and are willing to put themselves out there and meet new people in order to take Asbury Park to whatever level it needs to go to. I know that for me, now that I am retired, I have more time on my hands. I want to be part of that next gen, that next step. So I would hope that I answered some folks' questions tonight. I would hope that if you have more, reach out to me. I think the Asbury Park community is vibrant and they don't stop talking. They don't stop asking questions. You'll be hearing a lot from a lot of different people. And I enjoyed tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Giberson.
Well, thank you for holding this forum, for one. I, for one, love this city more than anything, and I know the other 5 people up here do as well. and I've got, grew up with some of them. So yeah, it's about our city. It's about our people. It's about taking care of our city and doing what's right. Don't vote for AP Act now because you know us. Don't vote for AP Act now because you like us. Don't vote for AP Act now because we're friends with you, some of you. Vote for AP Act now because we'll do the work. Vote for AP Act now because we will represent our city in every corner. Vote for AP Act now because we will hold people accountable. However, if, as the voter, if you're happy with what you have and if you think everything's okay, then keep what you want, keep what you have. If you want the city to be run like a mom and pop, keep what you have. If you want it to be run like a business, then you have a chance to make change. And you can
Thank
vote
you.
for AP Act now.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn.
I'm gonna also ditto what Garrett and Jill said. I think clearly we are 6 people who care about Asbury Park, probably agree more than we disagree. I think with Yvonne and Eileen, what our record shows is a 50% reduction in crime, development throughout the city, affordable housing and progressive housing policies like rent control and caps. And one question that didn't get brought up tonight is that I think all 6 of us probably are very passionate about the arts and implementing 20 murals throughout the city of Asbury Park, making sure that local artists are used in those murals. I'm sure Yvonne and Eileen will talk much more about music than I am capable of doing, but they will talk about how music has been vital to Asbury Park. We want to make sure we continue to support them. And the way you continue to support these policies is by voting for me, Yvonne, and Eileen.
Thank you. Ms. Clayton.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight, and thank you to everyone that's tuned in. We all love Asbury Park, but we 3 have made changes. We have created an Asbury Park that people love to come to. We have created an Asbury Park where it's welcoming for everyone. Walk around the city, and what do you see? You see diversity, you see activity, you see new development. It's what we've done. We have worked hard, and we will continue to work. We will continue to make progress and make this a city that is the best city it can ever be for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lafredo.
Thank you. All right, yes, good people. But the city was welcoming long before this council took office. We had a city that was empty. When I left office, the boardwalk was making money, the beach utility was making money, the parking utility was making money. Beach utility was losing $50,000 a year. That has stopped. Now they're making millions, and so is the parking. Look, folks, in the last 10 years, we've had 5 city managers. It's confusion. It doesn't bode well for proper projects that need to get done when you keep changing your, and we also had several interim city managers. But every time you start changing the leader, everything changes. Folks, you want stability, you want things to move forward. Garrett, John, and Jill, those are the ones you vote for. Thank you, everybody. This has been great.
Thank you. And Ms. Chapman.
So I just have to comment on one of John's comments. So I've been in office for 8 years, and we've had 3 city managers. John, I know during your term, you also had 3 city managers, and one of them went to jail for corruption. But we're going to move beyond that. My hope for this city is that tomorrow's Asbury Park will continue to provide opportunities for growth and improvement as a result of stable government. Your vote is your voice. Asbury Together is a diverse and qualified team that has taken Asbury Park from what the state referred to as a distressed city, also during your term, John, to a vibrant community. Our decisions and policies are developed with the entire city in mind, not just one neighborhood or demographic. We are the team that represents all voices. Don't throw your vote away because someone is your friend who may or may not be able to provide sound governance. Make it about service and results. We want you to cast your vote for the team that has been working hard for all of our residents. We are leaders who listen and respond. We've seen Asbury Park go through some significant
Thank
hard times. We're the team that has turned that around and don't ever want to go back.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much to all 6 of you for participating tonight. This has been very informative and impressively collegial as well. Thank you too to all of the audience.
We're not
and
the Board of Ed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Thank you too for all of you in the audience for taking time to inform yourselves about the candidates. Candidates, please feel free to wave goodbye to the audience. Audience,
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and audience, if you would please remain for a few moments, I will share information regarding voting in the upcoming election. There are 3 ways for registered voters to vote. If you already have a vote by mail ballot, you may cast your ballot by mailing it, but no later than, with a postmark no later than 8 p.m. on November 5th, or by placing it in any drop box in Monmouth County, or by handing it to the Monmouth County Board of Elections. Early in-person voting is also an option. You may use a voting machine at any early voting site in Monmouth County now through Sunday, September 3rd. And of course, you may vote in person on Election Day. You may cast your ballot using a voting machine at your assigned local site between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. For any voting questions, please visit monmouthcountyvotes.com. And thank you once again for joining us. Good night.